Hey, let's have some fun. Welcome to the Sixers Talk podcast, brought to you by Wilmington University, WilmU Works, Danny Pommells, Big Game, Amy Fadool, Noah Levick keeping us on the level. Our producer, Ben Berry, in the cut, making things happen, pushing buttons, pulling strings. And hopefully you have a clear mind, and so does Tyrese Maxey, recovering from a concussion because the Sixers need him, guys. And it's weird because after that Dallas Mavericks win, it seems like either the bottom of the standings are catching up with the Sixers or the Sixers are sinking to the bottom of the standings. Both things can be true. And here we are with the Sixers firmly in the play-in, guys. They were looking for that 3-game winning streak in Brooklyn, but it would not happen. And here we are to discuss the state of affairs. It's a lot of places we can start, but this is an ailing team, guys. So shorthanded last night. Kyle Lowry resting on the back-to-back. No Robert Covington, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, DeAnthony Melton was out. Although he did find some time after the game to talk to his old teammates with the Grizzlies, and it was a little, I don't know. You see Jaren Jackson Jr. give him 30 and all types of action on both ends of the floor, and then there he is talking with DeAnthony Melton, one of our injured players, after the game, having fun. And yes, the NBA is a brotherhood, but the Sixers are in a situation where it just is a little painful to watch sometimes. How did they blow this 15-point lead last night?
Yeah, a lot had to go wrong to do that against a Memphis team that is also very, very depleted and not especially good, but they were, very, very undermanned themselves, the Sixers, and I think the lack of big man depth was glaring, and Memphis was glad to exploit that, beat the Sixers to a lot of crucial offensive boards, and look, Paul Reed fouled out, KJ Martin fouled out, and the Sixers were desperate for some stability on the interior, and it's just not here for the time being. Mo Bamba was only trusted for 4 minutes last night, and as we've said before, it's kind of understandable to have that approach, but definitely a pretty disappointing defeat. And you felt the absences, of course, with your key ball handlers out of there. Not a lot of ability to right the ship and just get things together offensively. And I think yet again we see the margin of error is small, and some of these mistakes the last 2 games have been pretty brutal. Like Kelly Oubre Jr., yes, he's been doing some positive things with his scoring off the bench, but I think he stepped out of bounds 3 times last night. That just shouldn't happen for any NBA player. And those mistakes, you look back at a close game and you're going to regret them, and you're going to say this is a missed opportunity for the Sixers. So yes, it's a tough spot for them. You feel for the team with yet another pretty major injury here, with your all-star ball handler out with the concussion. You even got Campaign playing through sickness the last couple of games and doing the best he can. But I think the Sixers made a lot of late game mistakes in both Brooklyn and Philly these last couple nights. And indeed, the standings picture doesn't look quite as good as it did last time we were on here. It's going to be super tight until the end in all likelihood. We've got just 2 games now separating 4th through 8th and 20 games to go for the Sixers. So you figure they probably will need to be, 12-8 or something along those lines if they want to avoid the play-in. But the odds definitely worsened a little bit with the missed opportunities over this back-to-back.
Yeah, it was tough because, as Noah mentioned, on Tuesday, if they had beat the Nets, you're sitting in 4th place. And then they lost the Nets, and then they're at 7th place. And obviously the other teams around them are taking care of their own business. You saw the Magic win, which obviously helps them and hurts the Sixers. So to your initial point, it's kind of both. Like, some other teams are rising up and the Sixers are falling. You can't lose 2 games to the Nets and the Grizzlies, who are both shorthanded. I know the Sixers are shorthanded, but talent on paper, yeah, I know you're missing Tyrese Maxey, but you still have people that should be able to carry you through in a game like that. You entered the 4th quarter leading by 12 points. You allowed the Grizzlies to get 5 offensive rebounds in the 4th quarter that led to 11 points in the 4th quarter alone. That is about heart and desire right there for me. You cannot have that happen. And you need to recognize, and I thought Nick Nurse did a good job trying to call timeouts and kind of rally the troops. But at some point, you need the players to do what they can do. And I thought Campaign gave him everything that he could. You're asking a lot from him. I know we're going to talk about Jeff Doughton earlier. Here's a guy that literally just came up. It was his second game ever for the Sixers to get on the court. He scored his first bucket. And here's a guy you're thinking, oh, he literally just got here, and he had more points than some of the stars on this team. I know we're going to talk about Tobias Harris coming up, but for him to be the fifth shot taker as far as how many shots he took is just completely irresponsible. But games like this, 20 games to go, you're going to look back and say, why are we in the play-in tournament? And you're going to point to the Grizzlies game. You're going to point to the Nets game. The Grizzlies game was in hand. You're leading that game, final frame by 12 points. You cannot lose that game. That's about as bad a loss as you're going to get.
And it's funny because the Grizzlies had beaten the Nets, in their last game. And then they come into South Philly and do the same to the Sixers. And, you can point to the injuries, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The execution down the stretch, taking care of the basketball, being, where you should be. It's a game of runs. Of course, both teams are going to make a run, but you can just see the momentum shifting, and the body language hasn't been great with the team right now. And, you're trying to incorporate these new people, and we'll play a little game that I'm going to surprise you guys with a bit later of Would You Rather that will definitely loosen things up a bit. But listen, it's frustrating to lose, and to lose without your best players, but to lose to teams who aren't even in playoff contention. That's really something. I'm in a group text with some, Sixers insiders and whatnot. And I found out that, after a back-to-back, there's no practice for the team. So I'm really, a guy who, Nick Nurse is really. Who
was that insider that told you that information? You may or may not be on this podcast. Captain Practice cannot be happy that he's not having practice today.
Right, exactly. Exactly my point. So Noah Levick blessing us with that information that they don't practice. I didn't know on every back-to-back that there was no practice.
You can't have a practice. He loves practice.
Right. So I'm sure that's really a thorn in his side. But we don't have any up-to-date information because I didn't really listen to all the post-game sound last night from Nick Nurse, but I assume that there wasn't any new information on Tyrese Maxey.
No.
Yeah. We did get a couple injury updates of note just with the Anthony Melton. They say it's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks and has begun offloading. So we shall see, but definitely not an imminent return on the horizon with Melton. And then Robert Covington, the team says he will be reevaluated in about a week. The hope is that he'll be back out doing on the court activities in 7 to 10 days. So the window is still, slightly open with him. I don't think they've, extinguished all hopes on a Robert Covington return. And the Sixers could use any defensive reinforcements these days. I mean, this has been, I believe, still a bottom 5 defensive team since Joel Embiid's injury. And they just cannot get any stops when they need them. And as Amy said, the inability to get defensive rebounds last night was also pretty glaring. I think, yes, that becomes a lot more difficult when you were down Joel Embiid, when Paul Reed and KJ Martin have fouled out. But a lot of contested, scrappy sort of boards, and they were just second best pretty much every single time there. And Kelly Oubre Jr. essentially called that out post game and said, sharp, the Memphis team just worked harder than us, and that hard work is going to beat talent. So that's a key lesson for us to take away. He didn't really mince words, and feeling that the Sixers were just out hustled, and that is the reason they lost this game. So yeah, definitely will continue to be quite undermanned for the time being. And with concussions, there's no definitive return timeline, right? Every concussion is different. You got to pass through the protocols that the NBA has laid out. The Sixers did say it's a mild concussion for Maxey, but I think the bottom line there is you got to wait and see, and of course be 100% sure that he is good to go before you clear him to get back out there.
How crazy it is it though, Danny? Like you listen to it, and Noah brought up that great comment from Kelly Oubre, which hits the nail on the head. They were outworked and out hustled, and that's going to be talent. I mean, this is a team that has guys that are playing at high levels, and they just got worked by, yes, Jaren Jackson Jr., All-Star last year, Defensive Player of the Year. Good, check. The rest of that roster that the Grizzlies trotted out, you had to Google who they were and where they came from because you had no idea. These guys played at VCU for 4 years. No offense to VCU. I'm from Richmond, so I could say that. Loyola of Maryland. And you're thinking, who are these guys? You had to look up pronouncers for their names because you had no idea who they were. And those guys we were talking about it. We were joking in the newsroom. I know you're up there. Like, what would some of the G League players do? Those guys work and want to play. All right. That's what you saw from Jeff Doughton. He's ready to roll. Like put him out there. It was mind blowing to me to have Kelly Oubre hit the nail on the head and be like, yep, they outworked us. We can't just trot out there thinking they had just lost to the Nets, who were also shorthanded. And the same thing happened. We were sitting on set and was like, this is exactly like the Nets game. It was 100-95. That was the last bucket that Tobias Harris had. And I was like, this does not look good. I do not like this game. They're going to lose it. And sure enough.
No, 200% right, Amy. And it's frustrating because, you had seen some things that were working. And I know it's matchup based and the Paul Reed, Mo Bamba thing, but, Reed was definitely strong, hustling after loose balls and second chance points and effort, but he can't do it by himself. And so many things that, you look at with the team are based on consistency and just people showing up and doing their job. And Nick Nurse has, stressed that in a lot of different ways. And so have, other players when they spoke. But listen, I'm not expecting a whole lot I feel like if Tyrese Maxey was out there, they would have won those last two games. They needed like a run stopper, somebody to get a bucket, somebody to change the momentum, kind of even Kyle Lowry being out there and him kind of rallying the troops and bringing everybody in and making sure they're on the same page and things like that. And Noah mentioned the lack of ball handlers, and that extends to the leadership on the court and, doing things by example out there. And, it's not a whole lot of reason to be, super optimistic about. Noah mentioned on previous podcasts, they have the ninth toughest schedule coming out of the All-Star break. We're waiting for Joel Embiid to get healthy. And this weird freak thing happens with Tyrese Maxey in front of all his friends and family in Dallas. So, part of it is just you got to weather the storm. But why everyone isn't quite on the same page with picking up slack and kind of showing up more. And, you can point fingers all over the place, but that definitely leads to some discussion about Tobias Harris. And, you mentioned he took the fifth most shots that Nick Nurse mentioned in this post-game presser on the team. We talked in the past about, James Harden and that funny line from Jalen Rose about, some of his stats and shot selections and misses and makes looks like concert dates. So like 3 for 12, like 312, like check out Tobias Harris and the Sixers or whoever, you know what I'm saying? So it was a frustrating night, and it was tough, watching the post game press conference, the sound, and seeing him, in that kind of pressure cooker. I was waiting for someone to ask him, what happened and why do you feel like you haven't been able to step up consistently here in the absence of, some of the other stars? And,
he didn't talk very long.
Yeah, I know, but he looked really frustrated. I thought that question was coming, but he definitely was like quick to like,
I'm out.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Said a lot of we didn't do this. We didn't do that. I didn't do some of the things too. I think at some point you need to take some responsibility. I get that, it is a team sport, but 3 for 12.
I do think that's an area he's been relatively good and relatively consistent. Like he does make himself available.
Regardless.
Look, in all honesty, he's had quite a few of these games. So after every one, say, why are you, failing in the big moments or something? Like it is what it is. He's done this quite a bit this year. And look, this was another pretty bad one after he had very much righted the ship and been excellent for a couple games. Played a decent game in Brooklyn, albeit not good enough. And this time, I think the shot volume, I'm not sure it was the worst aspect of his performance, just because Memphis was doubling him pretty hard and pretty determined to make other guys beat the Sixers. But I do think he didn't put enough pressure on the defense, didn't really take his opportunities to drive downhill in the open floor. And, that luck is always a bit of a factor. I agree with Nick Nurse's comment that he'd gotten a couple friendly rolls lately, and they just were not there last night. But boy, the fans let him hear it in the fourth quarter with a couple of, tentative, shaky plays that he made. There was one, he seemingly had, a free pass to just go down the lane, decided to kick it out to the corner for some reason. It got picked off, and
that was Ben Simmons-esque, man. That was
the volume was maybe the highest we've heard this year as far as the boos for Harris there. And it's understandable because, as we've said, he's a guy that at least needs to be solid when you are undermanned. And there's been way too many times this year where it's been super subpar. He hasn't even been providing the, typical production. It's been way below that. And again, I didn't think he did enough for the Sixers defensively on the glass. And with some of those intangibles, as far as like being a leader and getting everyone on the same page, I think, yes, like you're going to lean on Kyle Lowry for that. You're going to lean on Tyrese Maxey. But you even had Harris come in after the game. It felt like guys often, didn't know what they were running offensively and didn't really have a clear sense of the aims, of the team. I mean, I think a little blame probably falls on his shoulders there as well. Like, you've been here 5 years, and in addition to hitting some of those tough shots, you're also going to be looked to in terms of providing stability, providing leadership, and a steadying presence. And he very much was not that last night. Again, albeit after a good stretch for him, after a period where he had been really trending up, he plummeted right back down there. So I'm not personally inclined to criticize anything as far as what he said to us reporters. I think he is quite solid in that regard compared to most NBA players, but people care about the production and what he's doing on the court. And that was, again, quite disappointing.
Jeffrey Downton Abbey coming through with 10 points, and, Tobias, a tough night for him with 8. You can't be outscored by, no diggity, no doubt. Yeah.
Oh, no diggity, no doubt. And thank you for that. Thank you for that one. I was really hoping they would win. So we had a fun board built for no diggity, no doubt. And then the guy didn't get in again.
I thought that was so funny when you said that last night.
A lot of people, so the younger crew didn't know exactly what I was talking about with that song. So I was a little bit disappointed.
That's okay.
People need to know, but listen, that's a classic. And if you don't like Blackstreet, then I don't know what you're doing with your life. So it's fine. Totally fine with that. Daniel, are you vacuuming?
Do you hear some vacuuming? Oh, do you hear that noise? Mm-hmm. That is, oh my gosh. I think I talked about this on a previous podcast. That is the church bell that is ringing.
Oh, yes. I did hear
outside.
That before yes. A couple of times.
Listen, no, because Amy, during Christmas, they will play a melody of songs every hour for 20 minutes. Well, it would go from one to the other to ring silver bells from steeple high, tell all the world.
Yeah, we've talked to people about your singing.
Can I finish?
Not great. It's not great, but I appreciate the holiday sentiment.
It would have a melody, a song. So yes, that is the reverberation of the church bell near me. Let's take a time out. We're going to come back with a rousing game of Would You Rather. And of course, we're brought to you by our title sponsor, Wilmington University. Learn how you can apply prior credits and experience toward your degree at Wilmington University's virtual degree completion day on Wednesday, March 20th. Details at wilmu.edu/transfer day. Check that out. Of course, we are brought to you by Rivers Casino. Celebrity cook Steve Martirano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martirano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations for Martirano's Prime on Open Table. Back here on the Sixers Talk podcast, and let's have a little bit of fun, folks, because a rousing game of Would You Rather always gets the people interested. So would you rather have Tobias Harris or a week of Wawa Italian hoagies, no substitutions? Would you rather Toby or the hoagies? Hoagies or Toby? No substitutions though. So if you don't like onions, those onions are going to be on there.
First of all, I enjoy a hoagie, and if I'm getting it, it's going to have everything on it. So unlike you, who doesn't eat any of those things,
I am not a hoagie guy. No.
Or cold cuts of any kind.
No, it's not.
No, I mean, what am I doing with the hoagies? Am I just enjoying them? Do I get to have them at a nice park? Can I do whatever I want?
You can consume the hoagies wherever you want, but that is your only meal for 7 days.
No, I can't do that. That's too much.
So Toby over the hoagies. So hoagies or Toby? You're going Toby over the hoagies. Noah, hoagie or Toby?
Variety.
Italian. It's Italian. It's not tuna. It's not turkey. It is Italian.
That's one.
I'm doing you a favor. I'm doing you a favor and giving you the Italian hoagie. Noah, hoagie or Toby?
Yeah, like what position am I in this hypothetical?
You're it's either Toby the rest of the season. Right.
Yeah, but am I like running a basketball team? Am I like a random person?
Is he managing a crumble cookie shop? Like, what are we doing?
What is Toby doing? Toby is playing the 4 or the 3 for your basketball team, or you can replace him with another player on the Sixers roster, but it's for the rest of the season, or you can have these Italian hoagies.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think Toby gets the nod there. I do have a Wawa that I frequent that's super close by, but despite my fondness for Wawa, I think Toby's going to be my preference in that scenario.
And you picked the hoagies or Toby, Amy? I wasn't quite clear.
I'm going to go with Toby, but only because you said I couldn't eat anything else. I would have to get something else from Wawa as well.
It's just
I
the
also
hoagies.
frequent.
Yeah.
But also now, does that mean because we've chosen Toby that we can't go to Wawa for the rest of the season? Because that might be a deal.
No, this is just a week of Wawa. Okay. So after that week, you're back at Wawa.
Okay, that's all. I can take a week break. It's fine.
The next one, Toby or another season of Jason Kelce with the Eagles. But mind you, Kelce has admitted on his New Heights podcast that he's not physically up to preparing for the season anymore. So would you rather a more broken down version of Jason Kelce or Toby?
Kelce.
Even though he won't be
arm that's hanging off and he drags the leg out there with some kind of like Tiny Tim situation happening with these braces. Put him out there.
More, please.
Totally
more, please.
That's Oliver Twist. Get your little
close enough.
Small English children, straight on that one. No, Jason Kelce with all of his ailments, and I don't care if he even does any kind of warm. You just wheel him out there, dump him at the line. And then he stands up, blocks, and calls whatever protections he needs to call. That's a no-brainer. You could have said Tobias Harris averaging X amount of points. No, that's just there's no way.
So Kelce over Toby.
Kelce, yes, Tiny Tim version of Kelce, absolutely.
Toby or Jason Kelce?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would go Toby just because I would want to respect Jason Kelce's choices and his future health and his
nice of you.
His life post football. So I think regardless,
I'm selfish.
I hear you. Yeah.
Before we move on, Ben Berry chiming into the chat that he got a Wawa burger and a milkshake at 2:20 a.m. this morning. My God, how did that process?
The answer is it didn't. It did not.
He's still working on that. His body is still working on that.
Yikes.
My stomach might have been doing some wild stuff at 6 a.m.
Wait, Daniel, do we get to ask you who you choose?
Nope. The next one is Toby or the Rocky statue at the Art Museum. Take your pick. Toby or the Rocky statue.
We putting something else in its place?
No.
Jason Kelce?
No, the Rocky statue gone forever or Toby for the rest of the season. Which one are you choosing?
That's really more for an outsider's thing because, we don't go to the Rocky statue.
So
you'd have to ask somebody that doesn't live in Philadelphia because they love that statue. That's like their favorite thing.
But it does create good commerce for the city. It produces something. It's Toby produced. Well, they Amy, now they got a whole gazebo tent set up.
Produces as well. Oh, I know. I've seen it.
You can get all types of Rocky swag. And sometimes if you're there at the right time, that Rocky impersonator dude is there.
Yeah, that's silly.
So it's creating something for the city. The production of the Rocky statue or Toby's production with the Sixers. Which one are you choosing?
Toby produces a lot of chatter. We keep jobs because of Tobias.
We talk
good or bad,
good
right?
Yes.
He is a part owner in Crumble Cookies, so that's commerce. right here for the city. And the statue is of a fake person. So
and Toby is definitely the guy you would want your daughter to marry. He's that guy as well. He's
over Rocky.
Oh, I mean, definitely over Rocky. Get out of here.
Let's just sidebar real quick though. I would rather have my child marry Rocky than my child marry Adrian, because she did not support him and he was always supportive.
You can't win. Do you see him? Do you know how strong he is?
You're gonna die.
Noah, Toby, or the Rocky statue?
No, I would defer definitely to Amy's judgment there. Yeah, Toby. I think Rocky. Core part of Philly. Toby is not exactly that, but
that's an internationally recognized statue. People come from across the globe to take a picture with it.
Silly, isn't it?
It is silly. Ridiculous. When I drive by there and see the amount of people standing in line waiting to get a photo with that thing.
They know if they just walked up the steps, they'd see a world-class art museum. But no, they're stuck down there taking a picture.
Or the view.
Amy, that is Boxing Hall of Fame Rocky statue.
No, it's not. It's not a hall. What Hall of Fame is he in?
Boxing Hall of Fame.
Rocky Marciano.
The Rocky character got inducted into the Boxing Hall.
Nonsense. Okay, well, why is it Mike Tyson's Punch Out in there? How about Glassjaw? Is he in the Rocky Hall of Fame or the Boxing Hall of Fame?
I voted for him this past year.
Stop it. You guys are ridiculous.
So, Toby,
and I love Rocky,
there.
just so you know. Rocky
no disrespect to Rocky.
All time. Rocky IV ended the Cold War. It was amazing. Best montage sequences. He obviously is, world. Gorbachev
Amy rooted for Drago. Amy rooted for Drago.
And Rocky brought us Tommy Gunn. Don't forget Tommy Gunn, a very
now you've lost the argument.
A movie hero. All right, look, Toby or a healthy Rocco. Toby or a healthy Rocco. This is a more serious question. Would you rather Tobias Harris or a healthy Rocco?
What year is it?
This is right now. This is current. Current.
Sorry.
You want throwback 5 years ago, Rocco?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Toby, first team all defense in his final full year as a Sixer, I believe. But yeah, I think for the time being, Tobias Harris is a superior player when healthy. I think Covington clearly is on the later stages of a good career. So Toby would get the nod there for me as well.
Sorry. If it was 5 years ago, I'd have thought a little bit harder about it, but no.
Tobias Harris winning out despite all of the naysayers and the bad blood coming his way. Tobias Harris is top of the heap.
Except for Tiny Tim version of Jason Kelsey. He didn't beat that.
You were all in on that. You were all in on that. But another fun, rousing edition of Would You Rather. We even got Ben Barry to chime in on that. That was great.
I can't wait for people to come at me with the Rocky hate. I love Rocky. He's just not good.
Do you love the Sixers versus the New Orleans Pelicans, though? Their next opponent. I see some grimaces there. Another opponent coming in to the Wells Fargo Center as the Sixers are trying to right this ship. I'm hoping Tyrese Maxey is back. That would obviously go a long way toward them trying to get things together. But I'm optimistically going to go with this. The Sixers were favored in last night's game, by the way. They were the favorites in last night's game. End up, blowing that 15-point lead in the second half. But I'm going to imagine that Tyrese Maxey is going to be back, and this will be a much-needed W for the Sixers on Friday.
It's pretty optimistic.
It sure is.
I am. I'm gonna go the other way, just like the Sixers.
Yeah. They
got caught and walked down by the Nets and got walked down by the Grizzlies. I think the Sixers could take care of business against New Orleans.
You saw them, beat the Mavericks. I thought that was a good win. I wish they could play the Cavaliers all the time. It seems like they were, always.
And the Cavs beat the Celtics. So
that was an odd game. That game was crazy. The Celtics were up big, like 16 points.
The Kelsey brothers.
Well, that's right. I think it was the chugging beer courtside. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that they're due for sneaking up on the team. I don't know that it's going to be the Pelicans, But if any, I mean, that's as good a time as any. I mean, these next four, absolutely. They've got 2 against the Knicks, and then the Bucks. Those are all on the road. It'd be nice to get 1 win before you head out and play 2 up at the Garden, and before going to Milwaukee, and then you get to thankfully play the Hornets again. So hopefully you can get 2 of those wins in the next 5. But yeah, no, I think they are due to sneak up on a team again, like you saw. But the Pelicans, they have some guys that can really score, and as Noah brought up earlier, Sixers don't have a lot of people that can stop anybody. We've seen that be a problem. You just got to hope to outscore them right now, or hope that they make some mistakes. But I don't see it. I'd love to be pleasantly surprised, but I would.
Here are the Pelicans' last 3 games. They put up 123 and 129 in a back-to-back home and home with Indiana, and then put up a $139 on Toronto.
Tell me the last time the Sixers scored 126 points.
It's been tough. It has been tough, but they come in winners of 3 of their last 4. Noah, you were very kind of quick to shoot me down on that. What do you think will happen Friday?
Yeah, I would certainly lean toward a loss. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think they should be motivated to play a lot harder and better and have more focus late in the game if they have a lead, and learn some lessons from these recent defeats. A lot of it's just going to hinge, is Tyrese Maxey available or not? And I think I still don't see a lot of avenues toward the Sixers winning this one. I think you need maybe a big Buddy Hield night. You need campaign to get hot. You need something a little bit exceptional to beat a team that right now is 11 games under 500, and the Sixers without Joel Embiid are now several games below 500, and it's just tough for them to find routes to win these days against good opponents, and they blew a couple of pretty golden chances to beat not good opponents these last 2 games. So I do think the overall performance should be sharper, should be better, but I'm just not so sure that equates to actually winning this game against the Pelicans.
Yeah, I think it's tough. They don't get to have a practice. I think Nick Nurse would love to chat with the team and show them some video. I mean, and Noah, maybe you can answer this. Like, how much activity can they do on these non-practice days? Can they send them clips to look at? Can they do walkthroughs? Because I would think that there would be a lot of things that he would want to point out to them as far as, and I know in the course of the game, they realize what happened, but I think driving a point home as far as when you're at practice, you set up the scenario, this is what happened, here's how we can fix it type of thing. They can't do that per se, but is there a way to kind of get that message across without having an official practice or a going all out type of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is the norm, what you're describing of this is what went wrong. We're going to highlight it for you guys. Just a recent example that comes to mind there, that game against the Bucks, where Paul Reed started and took quite a few mid-range shots. Nick Nurse said post-game he wasn't a fan of their shot profile, and asked about that a day or 2 later, and he said, he interrupted my question and was like, oh yeah, we showed that to them. They know what we're talking about. So I think absolutely the Sixers will highlight the poor defensive rebounding down the stretch. Mm-hmm. Assistant coaches will be sending guys clips, and I assume they will be back at it, shoot around tomorrow morning, and going into some more detail on what went wrong. But Nick Nurse is also a big let's look ahead guy. Let's not dwell more than we have to. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll want to be really well prepared for the defensive schemes against, a tough opponent in New Orleans. But Nick Nurse certainly will do everything outside of practice to review the mistakes and to prepare his team to try to steal one here against the Pelicans. But it does feel like when they're facing high quality NBA opponents these days, it's like they're trying to eke out a win. It's just there's not much that comes easy to them. Certainly no Tyrese Maxey has I think exacerbated that problem, and Joel Embiid led the league in fouls. Now you're leaning on Kelly Oubre Jr. to create tough shots. You're hoping that Campaign and Buddy Hield can go off, and you're just looking to some relatively improbable answers for how you can get free-flowing effective offense. And as we've said, the defensive personnel is not very good now either.
Yeah, they don't shoot a lot of free throws like they did when Joel. Obviously, he skews that, but you're looking at the real problem inside. You know, they let Jaren Jackson Jr. do whatever he wanted, and now you're getting ready to face Pelicans. So that's just it's right there. There's a giant void.
Yeah, to be a little positive, like Jackson wasn't super efficient. I think he was 10 for 25, and a lot of the credit to that is Paul Reed, who, in addition to getting a couple of those open jumpers, played really well defensively. I thought in the first half, was aware that Jackson's a really strong left-handed driver, played physically, made his life hard, and as we said, like tracked down a ton of those extra possessions and gave the Sixers real palpable energy and like productive hustle. So if Paul Reed replicates a lot of that stuff, the Sixers are going to be in with a chance against most teams. And he remains, I think, a somewhat unpredictable player, but we do know at this point he's an awesome offensive rebounder, and his hustle, trait is really among the best in the NBA at this point. And you do like that in a spot where you're shorthanded and you're just searching for something that's good, something that can like bring some positive vibes to the team. I think Paul Reed's energy is often going to be that for the Sixers, and they'll hope it continues and that there's a consistent stretch of good games for him.
Sixers a half game up on the Pacers for 8th place, but only a game back of the Knicks for 5th. So hopefully some of these things come together for them, as it all seems to be in front of them as far as making their way up the standings and kind of steadying the ship until they can get some of their players back. But optimism, still room for that, still room for optimism. So we will keep the glass half full for the moment. We appreciate you guys, as always, for listening and watching the Sixers Talk podcast, brought to you by Wilmington University. For Amy Fadool, Noah Levick, and Ben Berry, I'm Danny Pommells. Toby or Hoagie? Which would you rather? We'll see you next time.